Most people think wisdom is measured by how quickly you can answer, how sharp your words can cut, or how well you defend yourself in the heat of the moment. But what if the strongest response is no response at all? What if silence isn't weakness, but the highest form of control? Think about it. When anger rises, when insults are thrown, when someone is desperate to pull you into their storm, words can make you a prisoner. Yet, silence sets you free. The Stoics knew this. They believed there are moments when saying nothing is the only way to keep your dignity, your peace, and your power. But when exactly is silence the wisest choice? There are 9 such moments, and each of them can change the way you face life forever. When anger takes hold of the mind, words often become weapons. They fly faster than thought, sharper than intended, and harder to take back. In those heated seconds, we are not speaking with reason, but with fire. And fire, when left unchecked, burns everything in its path. This is why silence is often the wisest choice when anger first appears. Marcus Aurelius reminded himself again and again that anger is a temporary madness, a force that can make even a good man act like a fool. He wrote that we must pause, step back, and remind ourselves, is this what I was made for? To lash out like a beast? Imagine a quarrel at home. Harsh words bounce back and forth like arrows, each one raising the temperature. If one person chooses silence, not a sulking silence but a steady one, the flames begin to die. The argument loses its fuel. In that pause, clarity returns. Silence here is not cowardice, it is strength. It shows that you are ruled by yourself, not by your impulses. The same is true at work. When someone criticizes you unfairly, your first instinct may be to snap back. But silence allows the moment to pass without making the situation worse. Later, when your mind is calm, you can respond with reason, or perhaps see that no response was needed at all. To master anger is not to suppress it forcefully, but to deny it your voice. By choosing silence in the heat of rage, you protect both your peace and your dignity. When insults are hurled at you, the natural reaction is to defend yourself, to strike back with equal force. But in doing so, you place yourself on the same level as the one who insults. The Stoics taught a different approach. Epictetus reminded his students that an insult is only an opinion, a sound carried by the wind. It has no power unless you choose to accept it. If someone calls you foolish, the word itself does not make you so. Only your agreement gives it life. Picture yourself walking through a marketplace. A stranger shouts an insult, hoping to provoke you. If you answer back, you become part of his theater, and the crowd delights in the conflict. But if you walk on in silence, the insult falls flat, like an arrow striking stone. Your dignity remains untouched, and his attempt at control fails. The same principle applies in modern life. Perhaps a colleague mocks you in front of others, hoping to sting your pride. A sharp response may win the moment, but silence wins the day. By not reacting, you show that your value is not determined by shallow words. Over time, people notice. They see that you are not swayed by every slight. Silence here is not weakness. It is mastery of the self. To ignore an insult is to show that your worth lies within, not in the shifting judgments of others. And in that restraint, you become untouchable. There are moments when the wisest thing you can say is, "I don't know." Yet pride pushes us to fill silence with guesses, half-truths, or borrowed opinions. The Stoics saw great strength in admitting ignorance. Socrates himself was considered wise not because he had every answer, but because he was honest about what he did not know. Silence in such moments is not emptiness, it is humility. Imagine being in a discussion where everyone expects you to speak. A question is raised and all eyes turn to you. The pressure to appear knowledgeable is heavy. Many people rush to answer, even if their words are built on shaky ground, but to remain silent, to pause, and to say nothing until you have clarity. This is the mark of a disciplined mind. It shows you are not enslaved to appearances. In today's world, silence in uncertainty is even rarer. We are encouraged to have instant opinions on every subject, to speak before thinking, to perform knowledge instead of seeking it. But wisdom grows in the soil of patience. If you don't know, silence gives space for listening, for learning, for truth to emerge without distortion. The Stoics remind us, silence is sometimes the most accurate answer. It prevents falsehood, protects integrity, and signals honesty. To admit through silence that you do not know is not a loss of face. It is the beginning of real understanding. Gossip looks small from a distance, but it eats character from the inside. It promises closeness, excitement, and a feeling of being in the know. Yet it trades your integrity for a moment of attention. The Stoics warned against idle talk because it steers the mind away from what is yours to control, your own thoughts and actions, and into judging what belongs to someone else. Seneca wrote that life is short. Why spend it on the lives of others in a way that does them harm? Silence in the face of gossip is not coldness. It is respect for them and for yourself. Picture a break room where a rumor is spreading about a co-worker's mistake. People lean in, voices lower, and the story grows with each retelling. You are invited to add your piece. You know a detail that would make everyone laugh. Silence here is a test. By refusing to feed the story, you protect a person who is not present to defend themselves. You also protect your own mind from pettiness. The conversation soon moves on. You lose nothing of value, and you keep your honor. The same choice appears in family circles and online spaces. A careless comment becomes a thread of judgment that others pull. One sentence leads to another, and soon a reputation is damaged. Silence cuts the thread. It signals that you will not make someone else's weakness your entertainment. If a response is needed, let it be simple and kind. I don't know the whole story, or let's talk to them directly. To stay silent when gossip calls is to refuse a cheap victory. It keeps your speech clean, your relationships safer, and your attention on what matters, improving your own conduct rather than tearing down someone else's. When grief arrives, words often fail. We reach for phrases to comfort, but many of them fall flat or sound hollow. The Stoics understood that in moments of deep sorrow, silence can carry more weight than any speech. To sit beside someone in mourning, to share their pain without trying to cover it, is often the greatest kindness. Words can sometimes try to explain away what should simply be felt. Silence, on the other hand, honors the depth of loss. Imagine standing with a friend at a graveside. The air is heavy, the ground freshly turned. What words could possibly make that pain lighter? Saying, "It will be okay," may sound dismissive. Offering explanations of fate or destiny may come across as cold. But standing quietly, your presence steady, communicates what words cannot. I am here. You are not alone. That quiet solidarity is remembered long after speeches are forgotten. Even in our own grief, silence has value. Instead of rushing to speak about it, we allow ourselves space to feel. Seneca wrote that grief should not be denied, but it must be given boundaries so it does not consume us entirely. Silence provides those boundaries. It lets emotions rise and fall without being scattered into careless speech. There is a dignity in allowing sorrow to breathe without interruption. Silence does not deny the pain, it acknowledges it fully. In this way, silence becomes not an emptiness, but a companion to grief, offering the strength of presence when words are powerless. There is a peculiar discomfort that rises when others boast. A person lists their achievements, their possessions, their victories, and something inside you stirs, either envy or the urge to match their story. This is where silence becomes powerful. The Stoics taught humility, the quiet strength of not needing to declare your worth. To remain silent in the presence of boasting is to refuse the contest. You are no longer drawn into comparison, and you keep your peace. Picture being at a gathering where someone speaks at length about their success, the money they've made, the places they've traveled, the admiration they receive. The temptation is strong to reply with your own list, to prove that you too are accomplished. Yet what does this battle win? At most, it inflates pride for a moment, but it leaves you restless and unsatisfied. If you stay silent, the boasting exhausts itself. You have not diminished yourself by holding back. In fact, you reveal that you are not dependent on the approval of others. Seneca once said that true happiness is found in being content with what you have, not in envying what belongs to another. Silence in the face of boastfulness protects that contentment. It shows that your worth is not up for comparison, not measured against shifting trophies. And there is another effect. Silence sometimes unsettles the boaster. Without your reaction, their performance finds no stage. They are left with their own noise, while you remain calm. In this way, silence becomes not just restraint, but quiet authority. It signals that you are secure enough not to compete. There are times when the truth is so clear that it requires no defense. To argue endlessly over what is already self-evident is to waste energy and reveal insecurity. The Stoics believed that reality speaks louder than words. Marcus Aurelius reminded himself not to waste time debating those who refuse to see. In the end, facts, actions, and time will make the truth visible. Silence in these moments is not surrender. It is confidence in what is real. Imagine being questioned about your efforts at work. Someone doubts your commitment, suggesting you are not doing enough. You could spend hours defending yourself, listing every task, explaining every decision, or you could remain silent, continue your work, and allow the results to testify on your behalf. When the project succeeds, when your efforts bear fruit, your silence proves to have been stronger than any argument. This applies in personal life as well. A person may doubt your character, question your motives, or spread false assumptions. To respond with constant explanations often feeds suspicion. To stay silent while consistently living in line with your principles gradually dissolves doubt. Time reveals what words cannot. The Stoic approach is simple. Let your life speak. When the truth is self-evident, it requires no defender. Silence, in this case, is not avoidance, but trust. That reality needs no embellishment, that integrity shines brighter without noise. By refusing to argue, you show that truth has nothing to fear, and neither do you. There are moments when words form quickly in the mouth, sharp and ready to wound. The temptation is strong, to say the cutting remark, the clever retort, the truth spoken without care for its weight. But the Stoics taught that not everything true is worth saying. The question is simple. Will these words make things better, or will they leave scars? Silence in these moments is a shield against regret. Think of a heated exchange with someone you love. You know exactly what to say to hurt them, to win the argument in an instant. But victory at that cost is bitter. Words spoken in haste can lodge themselves in memory for years, long after the anger has cooled. A silence here is not weakness, it is foresight. By holding back, you prevent a wound that might never fully heal. The same applies in ordinary interactions. At work, a careless comment about someone's mistake could humiliate them and damage trust. Online, a harsh reply might satisfy your pride for a moment but create lasting hostility. In both cases, silence preserves peace where words would fracture it. Epictetus advised that speech should be measured and purposeful, not scattered without thought. If words cannot improve the silence, they are better left unsaid. Silence in such situations is not avoidance, it is compassion. It is the choice to protect both yourself and others from harm. To master the tongue is to master one of life's most dangerous weapons, and sometimes the greatest act of wisdom is to close your mouth and let the moment pass. Few things test composure like provocation. When someone tries to bait you, the natural instinct is to answer back, to prove you are not weak. Yet the moment you step into their game, you hand them control. The Stoics warned against letting others dictate your inner state. Seneca wrote that anger and hostility spread like fire, and the surest way to keep from burning is to refuse to add fuel. Silence is that refusal. Picture someone mocking you online, eager to draw you into an argument. Every word they type is meant to push you, to make you stumble into rage. If you reply, they succeed. If you remain silent, their effort collapses into emptiness. Provocation only has power when it finds a partner. Without your response, it cannot grow. In daily life, it might be a co-worker, a rival, or even a stranger in traffic who looks for a reaction. They throw out words like hooks, waiting for you to bite. Silence is the choice to leave the hook untouched. It says, "You do not rule me, my peace is my own." This silence is not passive, it is active discipline, the strength of self-command. By refusing to enter the quarrel, you win a deeper victory. You protect your time, your energy, and your dignity. The world is full of provocations, but few are worth your breath. Silence in these moments is not retreat. It is triumph, because you remain unshaken while others waste themselves in noise. Some decisions shape the course of an entire life, yet many people rush into them with restless words and scattered thoughts. The Stoics knew that clarity requires stillness. Marcus Aurelius often wrote in his journals during the quiet of the night, not to fill the silence, but to let it sharpen his mind. In silence, we hear what is hidden beneath the noise of fear, pride, and desire. Imagine being pressed to answer immediately, whether to accept a job, to move to a new place, or to end a relationship. The pressure is heavy, and those around you may demand quick words, but silence creates space. It buys you time to reflect without being carried by the current of others' urgency. In those moments of pause, the heart and mind have room to align. Think of the simple act of taking a walk in silence. With no one to impress, no arguments to win, clarity begins to form. Problems that felt tangled start to loosen. A choice that once seemed overwhelming begins to show its true weight. This is the gift of silence. It removes the clutter so truth can rise. The Stoic practice is deliberate restraint. Do not rush to promise, to agree, to commit, until you have allowed silence to do its work. A hasty word can bind you to years of regret, while a moment of silence can spare you from mistakes. In decision-making, silence is not delay, it is wisdom guarding the gates of your future. There are people who thrive on conflict not because they seek truth, but because they seek validation. They push, they provoke, they argue, not to learn, but to win attention. To answer them is to feed their hunger. The Stoics advise that not every battle is worth fighting, and not every challenge deserves an answer. Silence, in such moments, strips away the fuel of their need. Imagine someone in your circle who always stirs arguments about politics, beliefs, or personal choices. Their tone is sharp, their words chosen to corner you. If you engage, the quarrel can stretch on endlessly, leaving both sides frustrated, but them oddly satisfied. But if you remain silent, refusing to enter the arena, they lose the stage. They may grow louder at first, but the emptiness of their performance becomes clear when you do not participate. This also plays out in smaller ways. A family member may press you into debates at the dinner table. A stranger may provoke you in a comment thread. In each case, silence is not weakness. It is the choice to value peace over empty victories. Epictetus taught that people are disturbed not by things, but by the views they take of things. If someone seeks conflict, that is their view. You do not need to adopt it. Your silence is a reminder that your worth is not tied to their recognition. By refusing to be baited, you teach both them and yourself a quiet lesson. Dignity is found not in endless arguing, but in the calm strength of self-command. Silence is not only a shield, it is also a doorway to learning. When the wise are speaking, silence becomes the mark of respect and the posture of a student. Epictetus once reminded his listeners that we have 2 ears and 1 mouth, which means we are meant to listen more than we speak. To interrupt or rush to add our own voice is to rob ourselves of the chance to grow. Imagine sitting with someone who has lived longer, suffered more, and reflected deeply on life's trials. Every sentence they speak has been earned through years of experience. If you fill the space with your own words, boasting, correcting, or competing, you walk away no wiser. But if you remain silent, attentive, and open, you leave with treasures of insight that no book could give. This lesson applies in every setting, a classroom, a workplace, or even in conversations with family. The person in front of you may not be a philosopher, but they may carry knowledge that silence alone can uncover. Too often, we rush to respond, rehearsing our answers instead of truly listening. The silence clears that noise. It tells the other person, "Your words matter, I am listening." The Stoics prized humility, and silence in the presence of wisdom is one of its clearest forms. To listen deeply is to admit that you do not yet know enough, that others have something to teach you, and in that admission lies real strength. For wisdom enters only where pride has been quieted. There are times when silence itself becomes a teacher. Without a single word, it communicates strength, patience, and composure. The Stoics knew that example is often more powerful than argument. A person who remains calm in a storm teaches more about control than 1,000 speeches on discipline. Silence can be a living lesson, a presence that shapes others without instruction. Picture a leader facing a heated dispute. Others raise their voices, each side demanding to be heard. Instead of joining the noise, the leader remains silent, steady, listening. That calm presence gradually cools the room. People notice. They lower their voices. They begin to mirror the composure of the one who chose silence. Without speaking, the leader has guided the group. The same is true within a family. A parent who responds to a child's outburst not with shouting but with steady silence shows what restraint looks like. The child may resist at first, but the image of calm strength plants itself in memory. Over time, it teaches that not every impulse needs an echo. Silence, when practiced with purpose, becomes a form of quiet authority. It draws respect not because it demands it, but because it reveals mastery of the self. People learn from what they see more than what they hear, and silence is a visible discipline. In this way, silence itself speaks, not with noise, but with presence. It becomes a reminder that wisdom is often shown, not declared, and that calm can be more persuasive than any argument. We often imagine silence as empty, passive, or weak. Yet the Stoics remind us that silence can be an active force, one that shapes our character and protects our peace. Across these 9 moments, silence is revealed as strength. In anger, it keeps us from regret. In insults, it shields our dignity. In ignorance, it humbles us toward truth. In gossip, it preserves our integrity. In grief, it honors sorrow. In boasting, it frees us from comparison. In truth, it trusts reality to stand. In sharp words, it spares needless wounds. In provocation, it guards our composure. In decisions, it grants us clarity. In conflict-seeking voices, it shows detachment. In the presence of wisdom, it teaches humility. And as a lesson itself, it displays authority without a single word. What unites these moments is control. To be silent is not to be passive. It is to choose carefully what deserves your voice and what does not. It is to govern yourself when others are ruled by impulse. Silence is not the absence of action, it is action at its most disciplined. In a world that rewards quick replies, loud arguments, and constant noise, the Stoic way is rare, but it is in that rarity that its power lies. When you choose silence with purpose, you step outside the storm. You become harder to shake, harder to provoke, harder to corrupt. And in that stillness, others often find their own reflection. The challenge is simple to say, difficult to live. Do not rush to speak. Ask yourself, will my words add to this moment, or will silence serve better? To master silence is to master yourself. And in that mastery lies true freedom. If this message brought you clarity, subscribe and continue walking with us on the path of Stoic wisdom.